Good morning, YouTube land. Looks like it's snowing a little bit. We had a dusting of snow last night. Got the sawmill warming up, and I turned that cant that Sally was working on yesterday. So she's got stuff she wants to do in the house today, and I don't blame her. It's not as cold as it was yesterday, but it's probably right around freezing, 32 or so. I want to change this blade that's on here. I resharpened this blade in a different way now. You can see the teeth, the shiny parts there are much bigger, much wider. I'm going to see how this blade works to cut that flitch off the top of that log. Guys, one little safety thing here about the Woodmizer. The motor's running right now. You can see the pulley from the motor spinning. And the blade appears to be standing still. But let me tell you, any kind of little bit of tension at all on this belt can make this blade spin around. Even if you were taking the belt off and you sort of got the belt against that pulley, could start that blade to spin, and then believe me, your fingers wouldn't be lasting too long. So you want to make sure that you shut the machine off. Okay, you want to shut it off because it does have a mechanical clutch, which I love, but you know, you need to be safe because it will, you know, anything at all, like any kind of anything behind it could make this catch. So you want to shut it down and then go ahead and change the blades. Now you've seen me do this a number of times, so I'm just going to save the battery here and go do that. Okay, YouTube, so that cant has been turned, it's tightened down, and I'm going to go ahead and cut the last flitch off of it, or two. It might be 2 flitches. I'm at 15 inches there off the bunk, so I have this cut and probably one more. And then we'll get a good idea of what's going on with this log. And then I'll explain some things to you about the center of it and why I chose to do what I did. to show you some up close stuff here. First of all, normally it's nice to put the center of the tree here, the center of the tree in the center of the cant if you can do it. Now this tree, and you really didn't see it before, had a pretty hard bow in the middle of it. Now what's interesting here is that as we're cutting this, now we haven't really gotten into the lumber part, but as we're cutting the flitches, it doesn't appear to be having stress in it at this point. Now I'm going to find out it the more I go in here. But if you notice, it's offset or pretty bad there. It's only 3 inches from the bottom. But over here, you can see that we're just about right in the center of the log here with the center of the tree. So what we're going to do is, because of the way that the log had originally been bent, you can see there's some wane on this side here, or gonna be when I start cutting the boards. So I could probably end up with a clean cant. I don't know, I might have to go down to like an 11 by, or maybe even a 12 by 14. I might be able to get out of that to have a nice square cant with no flitch ends on it, or wanes on the edges of it, I mean. So I'm going to make a couple more cuts and see what happens with this. I'll keep you posted with it. Also, that blade that I just put in there, I sharpened that with a grindstone on a die grinder. And I just want to give you an example of what took place with it. Beautiful cut there. Now this cant is ending up with no flitches. We're down to 10 inches. So the biggest cant I could have got out of here that was clean was 14 by 10. Okay, but the wood's beautiful. Even near the center of the tree, you can see that there's nothing, no marks. Very nice. middle of the tree. So technically this is a quarter ton wood. 14 inches wide, you don't find that too many places. So guys, we're down to an 8-inch cant there, 8 by 14, and Sally has a order for some 8-inch boards. So I'm just going to flip this on its edge now and cut it the opposite way. That's a full 14 inches there. So we're going to get some nice boards out of that. I think I'm going to take a couple of 2x out of this as well as 1x. Difference in cranking that handle when you're cranking a 14-inch cord compared to an 8-inch cord. I guess you're getting filled with sawdust, ain't you? Boy, that's beautiful. Nice wood. Got some very tiny, nice little red knots in there. Nice. Man. If you're looking for clear wood, this is it. Don't get better than this. A little bit of a knot down at that end, but man, nice stuff. Very nice stuff. Now I'm noticing as I cut this, I'm getting a little bit of a bow in this. So I really don't want that. So I think I'm going to flip this on its side. Let me see what I got here. Grab the tape. I could take about 4 inches off of that, and then I'll be down to the 8-inch mark again. Then I can lay it down and start cutting the other direction. So I'm going to take a 2-inch board out here and see what I need to get to 8 inches. You guys can see this, but if you look along this edge here, I don't know if you can see that, but there is a little bit of a bend in that. So we're going to turn that and then cut the other way then, as soon as I get the cant down to 8 inches. Now what I want here is, I want an 8-inch cant. So what I did was I measured so that I would get an exact 8 inches out of this cant that's left. Okay, so I'm like 8 1/16, and I'm okay with that. And what I ended up here with is more like a 5/8 inch board. Now all is not lost, because boards that thickness can be planed to 1/2 inch. And those are good for the sides of drawers. You could even use them for drawer bottoms and furniture if you really want something heavy. But the sides, the sub face before a fancier face on a drawer, so nothing's lost here. So just to repeat what I said now, I cut that cant down to 8 inches, okay, this direction. So what I want to do now is roll this one time, and then I'm going to be able to cut boards out of it that'll be straighter than the boards I was cutting off with this cant. So this cant is having a tendency to bow just a little bit, not much. Let me just sweep this off. I want to make this precise. Now I'm about ready to turn this one click, like I said, that direction. But I just want you to take a look at this. If you see here, we're in the center of the tree. What you're looking at on this edge is probably the tree when it was about, I don't know, 8 years old. So there's we're cutting right through the center of it. So you can see that board there already has a groove down to it, which is a crack in the smallest part of the tree. You know, if you really were to study this stuff, it would be pretty interesting, I believe. You can see that branches were starting to form when the tree was very young, reaching out to get the sunlight and stuff. They didn't last very long, but they were pretty big. I mean, when the tree got to the point where it was about 2 inches in diameter, this thing had some pretty hefty branches on it. I swear, one of the trees I brought over, you could tell where the stump end was, and about 3 feet off the stump end, when you got to the center, I swear you could actually see where a buck rub had taken place in the wood at one point, because it was only about an 18-inch mark right along the very center of a 1-inch diameter sapling, from when it was, I could tell by the annual ring. And almost, I'm not saying positively, I don't know, but I'm just saying it looked like it was literally a buck rub on the tree. It's just amazing. So I'm going to roll this, and that'll eliminate a lot of that stuff. It'll put these knots out on the edge rather than in the middle of the board. And we should have some more good stuff. So I'll get you back as soon as we roll that in the Now if you take a look at that, you're looking at, there's a little lane about 2 inches long there, but other than that you're looking at a clear board, clear red oak. So while I was out cutting that log, Sally was in here canning 13 jars of sauerkraut. So she's keeping our bellies nice and full.
The cabbage in these jars is from the, I'm sorry, the kraut that's in these jars is from the cabbages that we raised in our greenhouse.
Looks good. Well, I decided to go get a little bit of lunch, and you can see it's snowing a little more out there. It's just not adding up to anything. It's just nuisance snow.
Exactly. Squalls.
Yeah, squalls. So guys, we're almost done cutting this cant up. I brought a board back and laid it on here because I want to talk about a couple things here that I think would not hurt some people to know. First of all, when you're using a Woodmizer like this one, or any kind of a mill that you're going down the log with, I would be the last one to tell you to be looking back at the rest of the log and not watching the blade, because these mills can be dangerous. Not that they are. I mean, I personally don't call this danger, but if the blade breaks, there could be a problem, so you want to keep your eye on that. You want to keep your eye on the blade because you may dip down in a log for some unknown reason or hit something, and you don't want none of that to happen. But what I will say is this: when you're walking down the Woodmizer here cutting, you're missing a lot of things, and that's why I put the camera the way I did today, because I wanted you to see what happens to the boards at times. Now, when you're making a cut and you see the board at this end from the camera view, when you see the board start to open up like this, you know that there's stress in that wood yet, and the stress is this direction, okay, or this direction. All right. So that's pulling the board up, and the board will literally go up higher as I go down to the end of the cut. And you'll see all of a sudden as I pass through the last, say, inch or two, this end of the board here will drop down. So that's telling you that there's stress in it. Now, if the board drops down straight, like, and ends up straight on the top of the other board, like what this one is here, even, it's not always a big deal, because boards that are bent in a curve, you know, like this way here. You see this freaking camera? Like this, okay, to the high spot, can always be nailed down. Carpenters know how to take, and furniture makers, to straighten them boards out. They know how to do that. It's when you have a twist in a board, or, you know, the bend is opposite to the grain. There's different names for that. I can't think of it at the moment. But what I'm getting at is that watching the cut. So when you notice that stress, whether, you know, and it's pulling the board straight up, you have to recognize that there's stress in there. So what you'll do is you want to keep your eye on that. Now, it's harder with a mill that you walk with than it is if you had a mill where you stayed in one place. I had a mill with an electric joystick that also worked the hydraulics, and the thing about it is you're working one handle at you're at the end of the log, and you can see what's happening to the log. You can see if it's bending this way, bending that way, or what it's doing. But anyway, just a little tip with the Woodmizer. A lot of times when you come back to make your cut, if you're trying to be fussy and get some nice boards, if you noticed on one of the cuts I made, if you go back in the video, you'll see the board started picking up, and when it set itself down, it went like that. What that's telling you is that this board not only has stress this way, but it also has stress this direction, okay? Now, it's important that you recognize some of that stuff if you're going to become a good sawyer, because you got to be able to know what's going to happen to the log. Now, a lot of times, and I'm guilty of this too, especially at my age, you know, I throw the cant on there, the boards look pretty good, I just keep cutting and I don't care what happens. I just get to the bottom, I have a pile of boards. There's a big difference between having a pile of boards and having a pile of quality cut boards. And a lot of how you cut using the Woodmizer, and keep in mind, the Woodmizer can cut to a 1/16 of an inch. So when you have something that's that precise, you can use that tool to, with a little bit of knowledge about how wood acts, you can use that tool to make yourself some really nice wood. So when I noticed that when I came back that this board had moved to the side, I didn't say nothing in the camera before, but if you remember, the very next cut, I said to you that the log is bowing this direction, okay, it's bowing like this, and I'm going to turn the cant. And I did turn the cant. And when I turned it, I started getting a lot straighter boards. Now that's the boards that I had already turned the cant. This is from the turning of the cant. I'm not saying that this board fell down crooked. I'm saying a previous board did. And when it fell down and it landed like that, then I knew that there was stress on it. That's why I wanted to get down to the 8-inch thickness as quick as I could and then turn the cant. Okay? So there's a lot of different things to watch for. Sometimes at the other end of the log, at the other end of the cant down at that end, you'll notice that the board may sweep to the one side a little bit as you cut through it, and sometimes they don't. Now there can be a number of reasons for that. For one thing, the board could be bowed this way. This end could be touching. That end's not. It's not touching anywhere in the middle. And as you cut through the end down at that end over there, the board is resting on the saw and nowhere else except this end, and it tends to flip the board to the one side a little bit. So that tells you that there's a little bit of a crown in the board that's on the bunk, or the cant that's on the bunk. But not always. You know, some of these things that I'm telling you, different things can affect it, okay? So you have to watch carefully what you're doing to be able to try and figure out what's going to happen. So another thing is you can cut all the way straight through here. The board can actually be bowed this way, okay, with the middle of the belly facing down. And when you get to the end of that, because the gravity, or because there's only friction in the middle of the board, that it'll also twist. So that's actually the opposite of what I just said. But nonetheless, you need to read all those things. When you cut up a log, this log is telling you a story of its life. Okay? And there's a lot to know about it, but once you start to recognize what happens and stuff, you'll know which way to turn these logs to make them nice. In Woodmiser's book, they give you a little bit of instruction there on some of them, and it's good advice. You can read that, you know, when you get your Woodmiser or whatever, and this way here it'll help you to make nice cuts. But I'm just telling you some things to look for. If you notice that this board comes up, and the problem, like I said, is that you're down there working, you're not up here. So you may not notice it. If this board starts to rise up, the more you cut, then you have to realize there's stress in that board. Okay? If the middle of the board rises up after you've gotten almost to the end of the cut, then the stress is the opposite way. And if the board should drop down, if this board drops down like this, then you know that there's stress in a lateral direction, okay, as opposed to, you know, where the board is sitting on the bunk. So those are all different things that can tell you, you know, what to look out for and what to do with the board to turn it. So when I had a board go like that and I noticed that, what I did was I got down to the nearest cant that I wanted, which was 8 inches, and then I rolled it. And what happened? I ended up with all nice boards. I got about 3 more boards to get out of this one by, and they're all going to look pretty good. I might get one not so hot in the middle, but I'm already past the middle, so they're probably all going to be good boards. So this log was a good learning experience, not just for Sally to come out here and see just how hard it is to run, you know, through one of these big boards, and it can be easy. It all depends on how you're cutting it. But I would have liked to have had her out here to cut some of these narrower ones, but she's in there doing her thing, so you know, that's fine. But all I'm saying is, there's a lot of things to look at. You need to try to read the board. So if the board is kicking this way, all the boards that you cut off, you notice 1 or 2 boards kick this way, you may want to turn that. And the thing is you don't want to go too far before you recognize it. Because once you've gone too far and the cant that's left won't give you the wood you're looking for, you're sort of beyond help. That's why you see me hesitating and I go slow when I'm cutting. I'm not interested in production with this sawmill. Okay, if I was interested in production, I'd have bought an LT15 or whatever the biggest mill is, and then I'd start cutting. That's not what I'm after. I'm after quality, period. And I can get quality with this LT15 as long as I watch what I'm doing. And sometimes I want all quarter sawn boards and sometimes I don't. It all depends on what I'm doing and what I'm saving the boards for. A lot of the wood I cut I'm going to be using for trim inside the house for molding. The rest of it, the balance of it, is going to go towards furniture. And I mean, I got a list of furniture a mile long of things to make that I just can't get to at the moment, and this winter's killing me with all this crazy snow every other freaking half hour. But anyway, just so you understand that you got to watch this board, and like I say, if you go back to my video, you'll see where there's a spot where a board dropped like this, which was telling me that there was stress against what I was cutting, and that's what caused the board. When I said to you, I'm noticing a little curve. So what I do is I always pick the boards up and look down them. Now when you look down this board, because this board is actually one that has been turned, this board is straight. There's no crown in this. The board lays flat. It's laying flat on the board that's underneath it. It's straight on both edges, and that just is a testament to the fact that if you watch what you're doing and you turn the cant when you can, you know, in the earliest stage. So It's not where you can cut 3 or 4 boards and look at it, because sometimes the stress may be on one part of the tree and not in another part. As crazy as that sounds, it's actually true. Just remember, a tree was a living thing, and just like the rest of us, you know, somebody might have a sore shoulder, somebody has a sore foot or whatever, and somebody limps one way and don't another. Trees are the same thing. They have lived a life, you know, outside with the temperatures and the wind and everything else, and they react to that. So it's up to you as a thinking human to be able to figure out what you got to do to help this tree along. You know, it's no different than, hey, somebody can't walk, we invented a wheelchair. Well, you know, we're working with these logs and it doesn't want to stay straight. We have to figure out how to make it straight. And you can use the, I'm going to say, complaints that the log shows you, twisting, bending and stuff, to give you ideas on how to fix that complaint or fix that problem so that you end up with nice straight boards. One of the other things also that I want to say here too is when you're cutting these boards, if you don't, if you're not good at noticing what's happening to the board, like I can look at the board and every time I look at a bunk, I'm looking at this 90-degree angle in here, and it's very easy for me to not see a 90. In other words, if the board is starting to bow, I see it right away. I can see it at the stops here. And if you don't look at that and you can't see that happening, the best thing for you to do then to help you to learn this and to teach yourself this is take the board and turn it on edge and set it on the bunk and see if it's hitting the bunk, and flip it over and see if it's hitting the bunk. Don't put any pressure on it, just look at it. If it's off the bunk in the middle, then you know that there's stress in one way. If it's touching the middle and not on the ends, then it could be stress a different way. Now, naturally, if you have a bow this way and you turn the log or the board over, it's the same board, the stress is the same. I'm just saying, you're not sure of where it is. And I can't look at a log and tell you, which way it's going to stress. Although I can look at a log and tell you which way to cut it to get straight boards, okay, the straightest boards, it doesn't always follow through. You've got to always be looking at this while you're cutting. When you watch those guys that are on, like at Georgia Pacific, cutting with a red line and stuff and zipping through boards one after the other, if you think for 1 minute those sawyers aren't watching every step that's being made, you're making a mistake. At least the good ones are, okay? And even with that, they still make mistakes in cutting them. So, alright, I'm going to finish cutting this up, get a couple more boards out here, and we'll see how they look. Sawmill is that this Kohler motor does not like to be choked. So when you go to start it, even on the coldest day, you really shouldn't pull the choke out too much. What I do is pull it out about a ½ an inch, go to start it, and I push it all the way back in, and the motor seems to like that. Now I don't know if that's going to happen for everybody, but it's been happening for me. Now what I'm doing here, you see me doing this, I'm trying to put the blade down to the point where it's just touching the tooth onto the wood. Okay? That means that when I back off of this now, and I look at my gauge here, if I go down 1 solid inch, I know I have to go down 2 more notches to make that extra 1/8 noticed, I don't know if you saw that or not, but look at, you see how that board's laying there with this side off? This side is over that way a little bit. The other end is exactly where it ought to be. So that's telling you that there's still some stress in this board, okay? But it's not much. You're looking at about, I don't know, maybe less than 3/16 there. So I'm still okay with this. We are getting into some different things now. The boards are not as clear as they were. A little bit of bounce in here. And this is because, again, we're getting to the middle of that tree. And it's a different cut than we were down close to cutting a lot of the quarter saw stuff. But now we've got a couple knots in there. Remember where I showed you the branches were before? That's what you're seeing here. Some of this sawdust on the side of the rail here is actually freezing up a little bit on me. Just the time it took me to go these once. These boards aren't bad, but this is not what I would call clear here anymore. So even if the last 3 boards are not perfect, there's at least a 1x6 out of this that's nice. I'm still going to keep it with the 8-inch board because somebody may like these notches. To me, when I start doing trim work, there's nothing nicer than being able to cut all the boards that you have down to whatever width you want yourself to be able to make a frame for the house. Well, the good thing is the boards are actually getting better now again. So we had a couple of branches in there with some knots and stuff. Yeah, we're losing it. So there's about 3 boards that I would call, you know, not clear, but pretty decent. They have a different grain pattern on them, so it all depends on what you like. Me, I like straight grain running all the way down the log. I just smell something. You're so close that the head of the machine is starting to hit the camera. Now guys, if you look, just to give you a little hint of what I'm doing here, if you look at this, you can see how much the wood is left there. much wood is left there, and you can see what the reading is on my gauge. Now there's no way for me to cut a 1-inch board here because I don't have enough room to go down 1 inch. The head stops at the 1-inch mark. So now I got to think from the bottom up. So, okay, we want 1 inch plus 1/8 of an inch for the thickness of the blade, the saw curve. So we're going to come up 1, 2, 3. We're going to come up 3/16. And what that'll give me is a thinner board on the top, which again I can use for drawer slides or whatever, and a thicker 1-inch board on the bottom. That's what I'm going to have there. Okay. So in other words, I can't go down 1 inch because I'll be below the 1-inch mark that's on the gauge here. So I'm going to think, instead of cutting from top down, I'm thinking now of bottom up. So I'm at 1 inch there, okay, plus 1/8 of an inch for the thickness of the saw curve. That'll give me a 1-inch board and then a thinner 1/2-inch board or so. This thin piece here is about 1/2 inch or so. This will make beautiful drawers. And I got 3 dressers to build. If somebody wants out of red oak, that's what that's going to be for. And the snow's starting to stick. That's just perfect for me to be able to plane that thing down. Now that board, let me sweep it off. This is my last board on here, and it's got a little bit of defects in it up at that end. Of course the yuppies, I guess, call that features, I don't know. But either way, to me it's a defect. But the good thing is it's 9'6", so I'm all about 8-footers, and I can certainly get 8 foot out of that thing. Another beautiful piece, and that ends that big oak that we had on there. Now, I have some more red oak there, just some fairly big ones. I've got to start cutting pine soon. I have so many projects that require pine. I got to start getting some pine logs in here, and this weather has not been cooperating. I mean, check this out. This is crazy. The sun was out when I first came out. It felt warm. Now it feels colder, and now it's snowing like the dickens. Yeehaw. John, I'm blaming you. Guys, if you remember what I said a couple minutes ago about using the bunk, the board's on the bunk there. It's off the bunk there, and it's on the bunk here again. So this board has a little bit of a bow in it. Now let me move it up, see if I can't look a little better. Yeah, we could go a little further yet. What I'm attempting to do here is center the board. Let me get this back. What I'm attempting to do here is to center the board on the bunk rails. Okay, so I got about 3 inches over there, maybe 4 inches hanging over here. And then I'm looking at the middle. So in the middle of this board, I'm up there about maybe a quarter. So that means that this bow has a crown in it, if you're looking at it this direction, of a quarter of an inch, okay? So that is still not bad because you can still cut. Usually red oak is going to be cut into smaller pieces. I'm not using this for anything that's really too big. And if I cut it in the molding, I'm definitely going to be able to maneuver it and twist it around for myself. But you wouldn't want to go much worse than that before you start turning the cant in a different direction. But knowing that this log had a bow in it from the start, I'm very happy with this as a last board. I don't know if putting weight on it, at this point, this thing is probably frozen a little bit. But anyway, that's what I was talking about looking at. And again then, if you turn this log the opposite way, now you can see the weight of the log is actually straightening it out. This end here is against, it's up off just a little bit at this end. So it's not a big deal. This is a nice board. I'm not complaining about the board or the cut or the machine or anything. I'm just saying, once you know what to look for, you will be able to cut some nice wood for yourself. Well, guys, I'm not even going to clean up my mess, and that's unusual for me. Maybe I'll shovel with, I think I'll shovel with sawdust, because that gets hard once it thaws out and then freezes. I've had it with this weather. I got cabin fever, but I think I'm going back in the cabin. Maybe I'll open the jar of that sauerkraut and eat some of that. I like that stuff. Or take a nap. Alright YouTube, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm trying to give you the blow-by-blow thing of what I'm doing here so that everybody can understand and know how to do this. And enjoy the, 5 to, I don't know, small mills, I guess 5 or to freaking 100,000. So you can enjoy what money you spent and not be mad at the world because you spent it. See how this is loading up on the rail here already? Sometimes I think I should have covered the whole thing. You know what I was thinking about doing? I have a 10 by 20 thing I got at Harbor Freight for a car, and it was on sale and I just bought it because. I'm thinking about putting it on this like an accordion and being able to pull that sucker out and cover the whole thing on days like this. I should have just built the shed this big, but I love being outside. That's my problem. Alright guys, have a good one. Well, we got a really nice pile of boards there. I gotta remember to keep this 1/2 inch one over here as well. And there's, I think one of them flitches can be cut into some more good stuff as soon as I get down there to it. Right now the boards are freezing together. I can't even pull one off the other. Hey. Well, I did shovel this up. That's it. Well, we're out in the snow, or while I'm out in the snow, Bullseye's in here enjoying some cookies. Did you eat them all? Yeah? There's a whole bag over there, but you're not getting them all at once because I know how you are.